Know the drill. Hello.
Hi, I'll have to move this around.
You're
Um,
you're on your side.
Let me see if I can flip this now. 2 seconds. Right, there we go.
Fab. And you brought a friend. I'm delighted to see.
Yeah, it goes still, so.
Well, I mean, do you feel like you kind of do you feel a little bit hard done by that you haven't really been able to celebrate it properly?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it took a tiny bit of it away, sort of, um, so that when I could actually take it around to gyms and I could start sort of showing it to the guys I train with and their families and stuff, it'd been sort of like 2 months after the fight. And I think it may have been longer than that, actually. I think it was more than
Yeah.
3 months after. So it's sort of taken the sparkle out of it a little bit. But obviously, I think after that first defense, the fight that's coming in September, I think it'll sort of I'll get to experience it a bit more then, rather than what I missed out on during the COVID pandemic.
Well, let's go back a little bit because obviously you fought a fellow Irishman for your title, Joe McColgan. Obviously, we were gutted to not see Joe win it, but listen, this is the sport, and someone has to win, right? And someone has to lose. So, talk us back to that moment when you got the call up to say when you had the fight and that it was a title fight.
So it was a weird experience for me, actually. I was meant to be fighting Danilo, who's an Irish fighter, an Italian.
Italian.
Sorry. That was the fight I was preparing for. Something like 6 weeks. Oh God, more than that, I think it was. I think I knew about 10 weeks I'd been preparing. And then all of a sudden, with 2 weeks to go, they told me that Danilo was out. He had medical issues on his side. So they literally said, look, we'll find your replacement. There's no panic at all. So I just laughed. Like, we'd expected him to pull out with everything starting to get heated up, and obviously Italy being pretty much ground zero over in Europe. We knew that there was going to be issues close. So 2 weeks was a perfect amount. Like, if it'd been the week of the fight, I think it would have been issues.
Mm-hmm.
So then, leading up to it, they matched me against a French opponent. He'd had a conjunctivitis infection. He was meant to fight a card the weekend before. So not a weekend before the fight, a weekend before that they offered him to me. So it was like 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out from the fight. They offered me him. I said, yeah, no problem. We'd send the contract, we'll sign it. And then a week out from the fight, I signed the contract, sent it back. They messaged to say that his conjunctivitis had got worse and that he wasn't going to be able to make the fight. And then they offered me Joe. So Joe's opponent had pulled out also. Joe had a nightmare as well. He couldn't come across because of
Mm-hmm.
COVID restrictions. So they said, look, do you want to fight Joe McColgan? I said, look, I'll put it to the coaches. He's a big name. I said, I don't really care who it is, but my coaches have to agree. And they said, look, to make it a bit more exciting for you, we'll put the belt on the line. So I said, yeah. I said, obviously, I want to say yes straight away, but I'll have to put it to my coaches first and make sure they all agree. So I messaged one of my coaches with a cooler head. He's a good coach. So I messaged him first, and he was like, look, I'll take a look and get back. But I'm sure we've talked about Joe before. And I said, yeah, we've done breakdowns on Joe, and we've done game plan for Joe. So it's not so crazy. So as soon as the phone hung up with him, I rang one of my other coaches. And as soon as I sort of got halfway through, he was like, yes, accept the fight. Tell him we're game. Don't wait for him, just go and tell him. I was like, no, we'll go through the process. And then I rang my dad, and my dad was literally just screaming yes before I'd even told him half the details. And then my boxing coach was just like, what do you think? And I said, the fight's is a good fight for me. And he said, yeah. He said, take it then. And then my coach came back and accepted. So I think I rang him back something like 12 minutes after he called me, and we accepted the fight. So obviously I wanted to say yes straight away, and but it's just the professional mindset. I mean, this is a professional sport, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
I have to tick a boxes before I can accept fights. Same as if they offer me a UFC debut, I'd have to go through my coaches. I can't just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I speak to them and say, look, they've offered me this. What do you think? And they have to say yes. Like, that's the rule we had starting out. Because I train at so many different gyms, I don't sort of train out of one gym. I train out of three. So they all have to agree, and my family have to agree before we'll accept it. So I just sort of sit back and just say yes to everything.
So let's break that down. I mean, how is that just something that you have to learn to get used to when you turn professional and when there's so much at stake in terms of belts, in terms of, you know, maybe losses, and also, you know, when we look at the UFC, what you do now will affect ultimately that contract that you get in the UFC. So is it frustrating that you have to kind of go through a list of people to make a choice on your life, your career, or is it just something that you have to kind of say this is part of the parcel?
So just is that's a sort of weird question to answer. For me, because my background being what it is, so like I was in the Welsh judo team from the age of 12 or 13. So obviously all the fights I do, I had to get approval from them before I could go and like being part of the team. Any competition we wanted to do, it was sort of they'd either put it to us and tell us, look, this is where you're fighting, or we'd have to put it to them, and then they'd say, yeah, that's fine, go along, but obviously wear our kits all with it. And GB was even stricter. So it's something I've sort of just been used to. When it comes to going back into MMA after the boxing fights, we sort of when I gathered my coaches together and said, look, this is the way I want to do it, and they was all happy to. It was just something we all agreed on because we tried to make it as professional as possible from the offset, rather than some people sort of as they go, they get more professional as they go along, sort of. And that is what Cage Warriors is good for. It is prepping for the big leagues. Obviously, it's a European promotion. Cage Warriors is undoubtedly the biggest European promotion, but compared to UFC, where like Cage Warriors is just a feeder. So, like I always see Cage Warriors as my sort of my college or my university days,
Yeah.
prepping to get for the big leagues. Do you know what I mean? And it is a massive step up going from Cage Warriors where I am now to UFC debut, especially at lightweight, because lightweight is a shark tank division. Like
Yes.
it's just full of killers. Obviously Jai's debut. Jai Herbert was obviously the champion before me. We were sort of looking to fight before obviously he had his debut. And like the guy was smashing everyone in Europe. And then obviously step up against Ronaldo. He was doing well and then made a little bit of a mistake. But Jai's a champ and Jai will be back. But yeah, for me, it was something that we sort of agreed on first. And I like my systems. I like having sort of a system in place so we know A to B. It just sort of helps. It's less stress for me. I don't ever worry about who I'm fighting because I'm the type of person I'll just accept every fight. When my next fight gets released, you'll sort of understand exactly how game I am and how willing to fight anyone I am. Also, I can't say more than that because it is still top secret at the minute. But you'll understand when it gets released. So a little spoiler there for you. But like I'm willing to fight anyone. I don't really care who or what they've done. I just look at people. Like I've always said I don't see idols. I just see targets. So when you look at the top of the tree, I just look at how I can beat these guys. And when I'm bored, I'll just literally just watch the top of the tree fighters. People like Poirier, Dan Hooker, Habib, Ferguson, all these guys, and I'll just do breakdowns and like how would I beat them? I'd sort of try and think it through because this is a mental sport. Do you know what I mean? This is a chess game. As physical as it is, the smarter fighter wins 80% of the time. So I love this sport, and like I said, I love the way we've gone about everything, and so far it's been really successful.
You I mean, because you're still like, how old are you now? 24?
25.
25. For someone that's 25, you have always struck me, especially in all of the kind of media and the interviews that you've done. One, very much older than your years, and two, very experienced in terms of like how you see the game, how you see your career, the journey that you're going to take in it. Is that down to kind of the gym, the people you're surrounded by, or is it that you've just been doing combat sports, martial arts for so many years, training in so many different disciplines that you sort of feel like you've done this for a massive amount of time?
A bit of both. So obviously I've been training since I was 7. So it's 18 years and 18 and a bit years, I think it is. Yeah, something crazy like that. So uh, it's been a long journey, and I've competed hundreds and hundreds of times, and I've lost hundreds and hundreds of times. Like we used to go away at judo competitions, and I'd fight 18 times over a weekend. Do you mean? And like most of the time, you'd win a few, lose a few. So you just get used to that competing mentality, and you sort of see how professional and how good you have to be to make it. So I've never been disillusioned in that fact that like to be a top of the tree fighter, you have to be one of the great like top 1% on the planet. Because a lot of the time you can win a championship without being the best person in the division. It's just the way the circumstances go and the way styles go. But I'm someone who I'm a legacy fighter, I like to say. So that means that I'm fighting not so much for the money and the fame, but I'm fighting to sort of create a legacy and sort of try and create history the way you do things. And that's always been my mindset towards things. And I've always tried to approach the game sort of. I like the quote where you sort of you project yourself to a place you want to be, and you sort of act the way how you want to be seen, and
Yeah.
sort of you make things a reality. So I've always acted like I'm the Cage Warriors champion. I've always acted like I'm the UFC world champion. I've always acted as professional as I'd expect someone up there to be. So like every interview I've done, I've always said yes to, because it's always good practice to learn how to speak publicly. And I've been proven. My first couple of interviews were terrible all the time, and now I'm starting to get better. But these are things that help. Do you know what I mean? Like these
Yeah.
are one of the reasons McGregor stood out so well, was because the way he could speak to people and the way he could sort of go straight to a fan's heart was the reason he he incited so much passion, and that was what really made the sport boom, and that was what really set his career off. And now the guy's a millionaire. Do you know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
know money's not a main thing. Like I said, I am a legacy fighter, but money's a good way of keeping score.
Hmm. I agree with you. When we look at, especially we'll say the Cage Warriors route now, the blueprint that's been put in place in Cage Warriors is, you know, if you go on an undefeated streak, if you win a belt, if you become quote unquote a prospect, a fan favorite, the chances are that the UFC contract is going to come your way. And for a lot of the Cage Warriors guys, that's what they have their mindset on, or that's what they've eyed up, is that I'm choosing Cage Warriors as a promotion to be the stepping stone for me to get to the UFC. But what we see is, you guys can fight so well and you can face the toughest of opponents and win the belts. But then when you get to the UFC, it almost seems like it's now the journey starts, as opposed to I've made it, and it seems like a very, we know it's a tough sport, but it seems like a very difficult place to sort of be, and that you've worked so hard to get there. And when you get there, that's when the hard work actually has to start. So how do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, if you take a look at my career for a start, like all the way through my fights, I think if you watch it back, I think one of three judges have given one of the fights I fought, they've given one of my opponents one round. Every other thing, I've won every single round in every single one of my fights, the ones that I haven't stopped, and everyone else I've stopped. So I've always prepared for UFC, and like the way I've spent my entire savings, and like I had some money left to me, like I had like something like 20 grand left to me, which I pumped all back in, spent on training camps and different things, just because I know that that's the way you do it. And the amount I've learned just by going away, and like it shows you exactly how good you need to be and how much more you need to improve. Because like
Mm-hmm.
the guys I train with in Team Alpha Male, like they're mid-tree fighters. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously you've got Garbrandt, but he's a bit light for me. But the rest of the guys I've been training with, they're the guys who have like floated into the top 20 and they're holding there, but they're not top 10 fighters. And I see how hard those guys are working, how good those guys are, and it's like, well, if they work that hard and they're only there, how do you get to the top 10? So like I started early. That was the thing. I've always had aspirations of this. Everything I've done in my career, all the judo, the wrestling, the BJJ, the kickboxing comps, the boxing fights, the boxing experience, everything was to go back into MMA. And everything I do, I'm extremely driven, I'm extremely focused, and I'm extremely sort of targeting. I like to break myself down and sort of try and build myself up to be the best fighter I can be, because I know when you get into that UFC level, like look at Reece McGee's debut. So Reece McGee,
Mm.
I can't say the guy's name. It's Kazmat or something like that. It's
Yeah.
Soviet. But how do you know you're not going to get a guy like that on your debut? Do you know what I mean? Like Reece
Mm-hmm.
seen him fight John Phillips, so Reece knew he was going to be a tough opponent for him. But you take a fight, you could be fighting someone who's 6-0, who's on a 6-fight win streak, and they could be an absolute monster. And like you have to beat those guys. And the way to sort of ride your way to the top is to not just beat those guys, but it's to demolish those guys. And that means that you have to be very, very good at not just one style, but able to adapt to every single style there is. So that means
Mm-hmm.
you be able to adapt to a wrestling strong style, a striking strong style, a kicking strong style. And not just, obviously that's just subgrouping it, because there's different guys who are good in different styles, and you have to be able to adapt and read your opponents. And it's so much that goes into it, and that's the reason I'm so passionate. And I love this sport so much because it is, like I said, it is mental chess. It's
Yes.
all about the mind. It is 100% all about the mind. Like the best fighters, they're going there with the best game plans. Like the last fight wasn't so much, but Volkanovski versus Max Holloway won. That literally shows why Volkanovski is the featherweight champion, because he went in there with a game plan. He stuck to it, and it worked beautifully. And he literally took Holloway's game plan apart. And I think I'm one of the only people who, when they watched number 2, Max Holloway versus Volkanovski 2, I didn't so much give it the Volkanovski, but sort of people were watching that fight with the mentality that Max Holloway was still the champion, so that they give him the champion's advantage, where Volkanovski was the champion. And to win a championship fight, you don't have to go in there and win the championship. You have to go in there and beat the champion. So like, they have the home field advantage. So if it's close to a tie and it's a very close fight, it will swing towards the champion. And that's the way fights always go. So I watched that fight, and it was a very close fight. And even though I could see how you could have awarded it to Max Holloway, I just didn't think Max had done enough to take the title off the champion. So I did give, like, that's the mentality you have to be. Like, you can't leave things in the judges' hands, because the judges are going to see things one way and you're going to see things another way. So you have to go in there, like I said, you just have to destroy people. And like, McGregor, for all his faults, and my coaches hate it when I bring him up, but as a sales sort of salesperson, because as a fighter you are an object. You should treat your career as an object, as an item you're trying to market, and that is the best mentality to be. He marketed himself so well. The way he sort of he finished his fights, you can't ever argue with. Like, I think everyone is. Did any of his fights go decision in UFC? I don't think anyone did they? Did one? I think one may have. All the rest.
One fight. Who was that?
Holloway.
Holloway's decision, wasn't it?
Yeah, Holloway decision.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? Like, he did it by the book.
Well, Nate Diaz 2 was a decision as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so 2.
Yeah. But you know, like, obviously Conor is, he is a very, like you say, he's kind of, people think he's fantastic, other people have different opinions of him, but Marmite, exactly. One thing that you can't take away from him is that he actually put into words and put into reality what he set out to do. And I think, you know, in any of the disciplines, any combat sports and martial arts, MMA seems to be the one place where you can really make your dreams come true. You know what I mean? In terms of having that blueprint, as we said, and you know, being able to work towards something, as opposed to just kind of like hoping that something will come together. Yep. But now that obviously you're talking about like Max Holloway and having the belt and different things, since you've won the belt, obviously with coronavirus, everything has been put on hold. But do you feel a certain pressure almost now, or a new pressure, that because you have this belt, there is even more of a target on your back, and people are going to use you to leverage their own careers? They're going to want to take that from you.
I've been the champion. Sorry, my battery went low.
That's okay.
I said I've been the champion since I made my debut. Like, that's the way my mentality's always been. And just in that regard, like, I don't feel pressure. Obviously, people say it all the time, and it's up to you whether you believe it or not. But I don't. For me, it's just like I love it.
Where did this come from? Where did this mindset come from? This sort of like bulletproof attitude,
well, like
bulletproof, like desire to win and want to win.
I did the judo for a long time. Like, I did high-level judo for a long, long time. And, like, judo was something that never really come that naturally to me. It was something that... Oh, sorry. I'm trying to charge my phone. My phone's going to die. I have to hold it.
Don't let it die. Don't let it die.
No, definitely. That was something that sort of I really had to work towards. And it was something that I was only doing just to sort of improve my MMA game. And the mentality came from that. Like, my coach, who's still my coach now, he always let us know exactly how hard it was, and we got to see it. Because so like, I won the Welsh. I was the Welsh national champion when I was like 12, 13. I thought I was a little hothead, thought I was it, that I could take on the world. And then I went to like a British competition and I got smashed. And then you have to work and work and work. And then when I was 15, I won the British nationals. I was the British champion as a cadet, I believe. Yeah, cadet. I thought it was it. I went to Europe and I got smashed. I remember I got absolutely decimated by a Russian, and that just sort of sets the whole precedent. And then I worked and worked, and I did average in Europe. Like I said, judo never really come natural to me, so it was just something I worked towards. Whereas MMA was always something I enjoyed and something that I could just do. Like I was always good at MMA. I was always good with my hands. I had really good jiu-jitsu for a judo fighter. Like before they even started doing BJJ, I did BJJ when I was 15. I always had a good ground game just because of the sort of the pre-MMA stuff I'd done. So I trained at Falcons, that was my early gym. That was the first gym I started at when I was 7, was Falcons Martial Arts. So that's the gym that Joe Duffy come from. It's the gym that Richard Shaw come from. Jack Shaw, Jack Marshman. We all started there. Like that was the gym that really sort of kicked off. It kicked off MMA for Wales. Like they were like the guy who run the gym. He was doing like strike and grapple events, which were they were sort of like the early blueprint for Pain Pit. Obviously, Pain Pit turned into Cage Warriors Wales, and Cage Warriors Wales. Well, it's just look at where it's gone now. Obviously, Richard Shaw, Shaky sort of took over from where Heath couldn't seem to sort of bridge the gap. Shaky was really good at people, really good at managing things, and he saw the opportunity to sort of grow. And he started Pain Pit and really exploded with it. And like I think he's one of the reasons that MMA in Wales has boomed the way it has. Because if the Pain Pit shows and took off, and if the Cage Warriors Wales hadn't started, and if people like Jack Marshman, Jack Shaw, Brett Johns hadn't been doing what they did for Welsh MMA, then and Chris Edwards, another one, if they had done what they had done for Welsh MMA, then maybe Cage Warriors Wales wouldn't have come about. And if that hadn't happened, then obviously I wouldn't be sat here because I probably wouldn't have been given a shot on the Cage Warriors card. And then if I hadn't been given a shot on the Cage Warriors card, who knows what happened? Do you know what I mean? So
was there ever a sense, obviously, with the two Jacks, with Joe Duffy, with all the guys that you just mentioned, they're training together, and you in the mix with them? Was there at that time? Did you ever just stop and kind of look around and be like, there is like a gym of absolute elite level athletes here? Or was it just, these are my teammates and, you know, what happened?
But it was like Joe, when I knew Joe hadn't even sort of started. I think when he was in Falcons, he hadn't even made it the Cage Warriors, really. When I started doing the judo, he'd started doing stuff. But then by then, Richard Shaw and Jack had already left. And like when Jack had left, like I think the same time I started judo, I think he started before. I think I was 11 when Jack left. So I remember, Tank, if he's watching, will laugh at this. He's like a little fat kid with long hair who had terrible hands. Do you know what I mean? And that just shows the growth, because like me and him were doing it back in the day, and like he trained hard and thing, and you just to see how much he's got on. Like he is the best prospect in Europe at the minute. Like I'm hoping to sort of to try and catch up. But like he is the best prospect in Europe. Like there's no doubt about it. The way he takes fighters apart, the way he wins, the way he can speak to people, the way he does interviews. Like Jack's got it all, and that sort of I'm gonna try and catch him and try and get. I'm hoping, and when I say hoping, that my mentality is that when this next fight comes off and I win this next fight, which I have 100% mentality that I'm gonna do. You'll see me fight in UFC in November on the Abu Dhabi card. When this fight goes the way it's going to, I'll 100% get signed. Like this is one of those fights coming up. Like this is, I always say the next fight is the biggest fight in my career, but this is a big challenge for me. And like when I win this fight, it's pretty much guaranteed I'll be in UFC. I'm hoping I'll be in UFC in November, and I can get on the same card that Jack will be fighting in November, that Brett will hopefully be fighting in November, and I can get on a card with those guys, or at least just be on the same Abu Dhabi cards. Obviously, I'd love to go to Fight Island, and UFC's been my goal since I was really young. Same as most MMA fighters, we dream of going to UFC. And at the minute, I think everything's playing in my favor. Like this fight is perfect for my career. It's a very, very hard obstacle, and like I said, I can't wait for you guys. I can't wait to get the contracts. We still haven't had the contracts yet. Ian's a little bit behind. So as soon as the contracts are signed, it all gets released. I can't wait to see and just sort of show everyone that I am the best that I'm the the biggest prospect coming out of Cage Warriors, and that I'm going to show what I can do, and I'm going to be on that fight card in November.
Absolutely. I have a bit of a esoteric question, or a bit of a what would I say? Psychological question. What is your definition of greatness? When you look at great athletes, how do you define them?
That's a very good question. A question I would have loved to have been prepped on. That's a very difficult question. So when I look at an athlete who sort of achieves greatness is someone who achieves, not only achieves and gets to the top of their profession and their sport, whether it's in tennis, in MMA. Let's stick to MMA because that's what I know. So they get to the top of the division, they become a champion, and then it's not so much like greatness isn't just about winning that belt. It's about how you win it, and it's about how you end up sort of, like I said, creating and ensuring your legacy. Like that's what ensures a great fighter. So for me, one of the greatest British fighters of all time is Mike Bisping, not only because he smashed the door open for British fighters, and I know there was British fighters in UFC before him, but like he's the first British world champion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he's the first British UFC champion. And he cemented that legacy. The British fighters can compete with the US fighters, the Russian fighters, the Soviets. They can compete worldwide, and they can win. And he had a crazy career. Like, he fought with one eye for I don't know how many fights. I don't know how he managed to get away with that, mind. With one of the tough health checks. But, he must be throwing money at someone. But yeah, greatness is that. Greatness is sort of achieving your goals. And it's achieving it in a way that sort of, well, that makes you great.
Yes.
It is like, I want to be one of those people one day that people look back on and they say, wow, like look at his career all the way through. Look at the things he did. No matter what adversity he had, he overcome them, and he did what he said he was going to do. And that is going to be my legacy, and that is going to be how I build it. And I'm going to do stuff that not so many people have never done before, because it's really hard in the sport. It's been around for 20, 30 years, 30 years. But it's going to be something that, like, I am going to be known as sort of the greatest of my generation.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to watch the journey, the continued journey that happens, continued journey.
100%.
But I do wish you all the success in the world with it. It's very exciting, it's really exciting to see all the guys who you've seen come up on the European shows like Cage Warriors, and to be making their step over. Like it's a really exciting time, you know what I mean?
100%.
I think it's like, especially, obviously we had Reece, as I said, made his debut, and I think that whether it's Ireland, Wales, England, Scotland, I think we all have a little bit of an affinity with each other. And when one of you goes over there, we kind of all like to see it, and we all like to get behind each other.
Well, this is the thing. It's like when you fight on a promotion, you end up competing against these guys. So like me and Reece were sort of building to fight each other, and we used to message a bit, and we kept it sort of quite distant, because we both saw that in the back of our minds, like we're probably going to end up fighting. I know Reece had the plan of getting the welterweight title and then moving down to fight lightweight again, just to fight for the two belts. Obviously, he went before with everything that happened. So we always had in the back of our mind we was gonna compete, and like Reece was another one, because I knew he was game to fight me, and I was really game to fight him. So we've been messaging since, and I'm meant to be going out to train with him in the next week or two, so we can get some good rounds in. But this is the thing, is like we'll compete against each other, but as soon as you go to UFC, we all support each other. Like Wales supports the Welsh, and then obviously you support I support the English, the Irish, the Scottish. We all support each other because we all want to see Britain do well, and that is the way it goes. And it's just nice to see people who have suffered the way you've suffered, and who have pushed themselves the way you've pushed yourself, do well on the international scene, and to see like British fighters, like I said, like Bisping did what he did, and for me that's something that I aspire to do myself.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, final question. How old were you when you got your black belt? I was very impressed to hear that you have a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
I had a black belt in kickboxing when I was like 12. I had a black belt in judo when I was 17, only for the Commonwealth Games. So I was going through Commonwealth Games selection. I was happy being a brown belt, just because I thought it was funny. I used to fight loads of British fighters and European fighters and sit there with my brown belt on the podium. And then my coach made me go through my final black belt prep to sort of get it all done. So I did all the theory and everything behind it and got my black belt. And then I got my BJ black belt when I was... It ended up being just before my birthday, I'm sure it was, either that or the week after my 25th birthday. So it was either when I was 24, 25. I'll have to go back, actually, because I can't remember the exact date. But it was this year. So I think it was just before I fought for the world title. I got my black belt. I had two goals when I was doing my goal setting a few years ago. I wanted to be a BJ black belt before I was 25. And I wanted to win a Cage Warriors World Championship before I was 25. And the two of them come around. So... like I said, it's all visualization, all planning, and making sort of my dreams a reality. And the same is going to happen to the lightweight championship in UFC. Like, that is mine, and it's just about stepping over the hurdles and running through whoever I have to, and like dealing with the setbacks to make that a reality.
Amazing. There's some good goals to have. I have my jiu-jitsu black belt goal is 40. So I'm nearly there. I'm halfway there already, and I have 5 years to make it. So hopefully I achieve that goal. But listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. It was great to chat to you. Finally, I can't believe this is our first time interviewing. We're getting you on.
I'm always game for an interview as well. You should have dropped me a message earlier, because if you messaged me, I always would have come on. So
I was a little bit sensitive after you won over Joe, so I needed to wait a couple of months.
Joe's a great guy, and like I said, he was one of them people that when I was ready to make my debut, I wrote a list. So before I wrote my debut, I wrote a list of the top guys in the division I wanted to fight, and it was Desney was on the list. Jakobsen, who ended up falling before I got a chance to beat him. Paddy, Soren Bach, and Joe McColgan were all on the list. So I managed to tick a few of those names off, and we'll see if I tick any more off. So
amazing.
So it goes.
Well, Mason, thank you so much, and continued success.
Thank you very much.
Continued success, and no doubt this won't be the last time we get you on. So
100%. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. No problem at all. And best of luck with everything. Look forward to the fight announcement as well.
100%. Like I said, it's going to be big, and it's going to make waves. So look forward to it.
Amazing. Okay, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take it easy. Bye bye. Thanks, Mason.